The process of starting and growing a business can be one of the most stressful times in somebody's life. Take it from me, who in the past 4 months has scaled my eBay store from having absolutely zero sales to a point now we're making 200 sales a month almost, and about £10,000 worth of revenue a month as well. The first couple of weeks were one of the most stressful times that I have faced in recent years. And I have to admit though, looking back, a lot of this stress is something that has massively been overblown. And even to this point, I do still face stress, but the way I deal with it is completely different. I want to talk to you guys and give you some of the tips that I have learnt to managing stress when running a small business. Because oftentimes entrepreneurs and people looking to start their own successful business and companies can massively overblow things and make problems that simply don't exist. So let me quickly go over the scenario that I was in. Just a couple of months ago, I was often stressing day by day about some issues that I had in my store. For instance, I had returns, I had angry customers, whether it was my fault or their fault. They were angry for some reason. I had questions coming in, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but obviously adds time and a research element to the whole process. So this was becoming very, very stressful. I had a lot of work to do and a limited amount of time to do it. And especially in the early days, even to this point now, I am still learning, but in the really early days, of first 4 weeks, let's say, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have my whole processes fully aligned. But now looking back, these issues seem extremely small. The one return that I used to get per month would stress me out for a matter of days. But now looking at where I am, just in the past 2 days alone, I've had a return each and every single day. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. 2 returns in 2 days doesn't mean that I'm selling bad products. It's just simply a case of sometimes things go wrong or customers aren't happy with the item. But the point is, now I'm not stressed about that at all. It's something that used to be such a big issue in my head, but now I don't even consider it as something to be stressed about or even to be concerned about at all. It's just a matter of running the business and something that you have to deal with. But how did I get to a point where I don't stress about anything to do with the business? Well, I think one of the easiest things that you can do is shut off after a certain time. Now, this may sound easier said than done, and it certainly is, especially if you run an online business which is operated off something like one of these, your phone. Because obviously, you might come home, watch some YouTube, watch something else, TikTok maybe, and you get that little notification that comes down, and it might be something stressful or even something that's good. But the thing is, you're now working out of your work hours. And this is really something that entrepreneurs struggle with. Because when people do a 9 to 5, they know exactly what they're doing. They're clocking in at 9, they're coming home at 5, and once they sit on that sofa, they are done until the next morning. As entrepreneurs, this is not something that people really deal with. People will work all through the night to get ahead, but in actuality, this is not going to get them ahead, because whilst it might be okay once in a while, if you need to catch up on a project or something like that, if you do this consistently, it is going to lead to burnout. And you may be ahead like this for the first couple of weeks, but then you will start to plateau and you won't see any more results or any more success because you'll have just stressed yourself out to a point. So one thing that I recommend is absolutely limiting yourself. This is one of the biggest things that I've done to help me out. For instance, the other day I was out with a friend who I was out with as well about a month ago, and this is important. So in the first time that I met this friend about a month ago, I was on my phone for a lot of the time. I was kind of stressed and it killed the whole atmosphere. And then I was saying the other day, I'm not even going to check my phone at all because I know that I'm going to have maybe 5-10 notifications. Now, whether they are good or bad, I am not going to answer them or even check them. I'm with my friend right now, and that's the same for anything else. If it's family time, if it's time that I'm going to be allocating to myself to go for a walk to the gym or something like that, that is now my time and I'm not doing the business in that time. So set apart time for your personal life. Do not be somebody who spends all of their time thinking about the business. You can think about it, just don't make it the main thing in your life and you don't have anything else going on, because that is a surefire way to lead to stress and burnout, and that's something which is just unsustainable. Another thing that I think also helps is separating your business from you. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily in a legal form if you're a sole trader or registered as a company or something like that. Alongside separating your time, I also think it helps to separate your business from you. Now, in my instance, this is my shop versus me. When somebody has a complaint about an item or the shop or something like that, it's not necessarily an insult towards me. I think as a business owner, we can get way too hooked up on the fact that this is our item, this is our business, and this is something that we take a lot of pride in. So one insult can really hurt us. But we need to realize people are just complaining about the product that they've bought or something like that. It's not a personal dig. So I wouldn't really take anything too deep. On top of that, I also think it helps to separate the whole goals of the business to the goals of you. Now, this is very hard, but what I always say is, in my experience, I want to put some blinkers on and focus on just a short period of time. I know where I want to be in 5 to 10 years, but that's not going to help me looking all the way over here when I haven't even got this bit figured out yet. So instead of focusing on what I want, I focus on the requirements of the business. So if an item needs to be returned, I don't think about the fact that might cost me £20 and now, I won't be able to afford this or that. I'm going to say, well, this is an essential part of the business because otherwise I'll receive negative feedback and that will allow me to make less sales as people won't trust me as much. By separating these two entities, i.e. myself and the business, you now understand how I've massively disassociated myself with the problem. Now, I don't mean that in the fact that I'm not going to take care of it, because I still am. What I'm saying though is I'm making this less a personal problem and more a business problem. Just like if you were to work in a job, if you were to work in a restaurant and somebody complained about the food, it's nothing to do with you, even if you're really the chef. You're just following the recipe of the restaurant. So this is not a personal dig. The same is true when running your own business. They may be complaining about your product or service, but don't take this as a personal insult, because that can make things much worse in your head than they simply need to be. On a note that I just touched upon, do not focus years and years down the road in the early days. Right now, you already have so much to be getting on with, especially if you are in the early days. If you're less than 12 months in, I would say focus on getting yourself set up properly. And even if you are establishing your tracks like I am now, I kind of know what I'm doing, you don't have it all figured out. So don't assume that you do, and don't worry about what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. Don't worry about what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years when you don't even have your 5 to 10 months in the future fully planned out. And the best thing that I would recommend is not to overblow issues. Now, obviously this is easier said than done, as even a small problem at the moment can seem like a massive stress, as unlike in a job, everything in a business falls down upon you. You have to solve the issue no matter what. So it's easy to blow issues over their actual proportion. You have to think about, is this something that you're going to be worried about in 6 months? If it is, that might be something to take serious care of. But if it's something minor, like in my instance, a return, a refund, a complaint, or something like that, that's not a big issue. It's just part of running the business. So don't overlook parts of running the business, even the bad parts, as something which is a massive problem. The truth is, when people jump into a business, they often look at all of the good stuff and only the good stuff. And that's just not realistic. Sure, you're going to have good things happen, and hopefully the whole business is going to be an overall positive experience. And I know that you guys want to make this work, but it isn't going to be as simple and surefire as people like to claim. There are going to be hiccups, there are going to be operational mishaps, and these are all just things that you have to account for and be prepared for. So don't think it's going to be an easy ride, especially for the first couple of months or even the first couple of years. You've got a lot of grinding ahead, and so have I. So hopefully we are on this path together. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in our next one. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.